Masechet Hagigah Daf Zayin. We're going to get into Korbanot today. We're going to see the Mishnah in Pe'ah that says there's no fixed limit to Re'ayon, to seeing. We'll see two interpretations, the machloket about that, and two interpretations of the machloket. That'll be the first Amud. And on the other side, we're going to talk about using Maaser Sheni for buying animal sacrifices. Maaser Sheni, that you redeem for money, can use that money to buy animal sacrifices. And so we begin. At the top, Tenan Hatam, we learned in the very first famous Mishnah, Masechet Pe'ah, Elu Devarim she'en lahem shiur. The following have no fixed measurement. Pe'ah, you have to leave a corner of your field. How much? Midoraita, you could leave one sheaf of grain. That's it. That's for the poor and everything else for me. Or if you want, you can leave your entire field except for one sheaf. There's no set limit. The Chachamim recommend one out of 60. Vehabikurim, giving the first fruit. You want to bring one fruit, two fruits, a lot of fruit, whatever you want. Hade'ayon, that's the olat re'iyah. That's why we're bringing it here. There's no limit. You can bring one olat re'iyah. You could bring a lot. Well, that's what we're going to discuss. Is it talking about the korban, or is it talking about the actual coming? You can come to the courtyard as much as you want. Or every time you have to bring korban. Or maybe you can't bring a korban every time because you can only bring one and Baal Tosif. All that is the topic today. Ugimilut chasadim, doing acts of kindness. This is not talking about money. For money, it's between 10% and 20%. But for acts of kindness, you want to visit your friend who's sick. You can visit once, 10 times. You can stay for an hour. You can stay for 5 hours. It doesn't matter. And Talmud Torah, the minimum is just read Shema, say a few Pesukim of Torah. The maximum, you can learn Daf Yomi. You can study all day. And so there's no shiur. Okay, that is the Mishnah. Now, Amar Rabbi Yohanan kisfurin anu lomar hare'ayon en lo shiur lema'ala aval yesh lo shiur lemata. So Rabbi Yohanan wants to understand this because we said that the Re'ayon does have a shiur, right? In our Mishnah, we said it's either one silver coin or two silver coins, going to Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. And so how do we reconcile this? Rabbi Yohanan says, I have an idea to reconcile it. I can say that there's no maximum shiur, but there is a minimum. The minimum is one or two coins. That is our Mishnah in Hagigah, and the Mishnah in Pe'ah, which says that there's no limit. That means an upper limit. If you want to spend 1,000, 5,000, you can buy the best animal out on the market. So that would be a good way to reconcile the two Mishnayot. But then Rabbi Yohanan realized that there is a more authoritative way to reconcile it. Rabbi Oshaya was a student of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. When it says Rabbi, it doesn't mean he was his son. Some people take this as an honorific. Rabbi Oshaya, the great one, or because he studied with Rabbi, he was an expert in the original understanding of what the Mishnah is. And when he came, he taught, he reconciled Mishnah in another way. This Mishnah in Masechet Pe'ah is talking about on the Deoraita level. On the Deoraita level, there's no minimum or maximum. You can spend as much as you want, or you could buy the scrawniest animal for $2. Midoraita, this doesn't matter. And Chachamim said, listen, there's got to be a minimum, at least one me'ah kesef for the Re'ayah, or two for the Hagigah, according to Bet Hillel. And so our Mishnah is actually talking about the D'Rabbanan level. Mishnah and Pe'ah is talking about the Deoraita level. All right, there we go. So we reconciled the Mishnayot, and now we're going to go back to that Pe'ah and say, Mai hare'ayon. What does it mean that there's no maximum, there's no limit to how much re'ayon, how much seeing you could do? Rabbi Yohanan says this means how many times you can show up to the Azara. You want to come to the courtyard often, you can come every day, you can spend all day there, you can come just one time at the beginning of the holiday. It doesn't matter. It's talking about showing up. Resh Lakish says, no, it's talking about how many korbanot olat re'iyah you can bring. You want to bring one time, come once and come one time, that's fine. If you want to come often and bring many korbanot olat re'iyah, that's fine also. All right, so that's the machloket here. And now we're going to see two interpretations of it. Here's interpretation number one. Let's just see in the outline. So that's what they said. Is it about the courtyard or the sacrifice? Interpretation A says that when we say no limit, there's no limit to the number of sacrifices, but everybody would agree that you can come as often as you want. And regarding the sacrifices, says that you can bring as many as you want, or you must bring as many as you want. Rabbi Yohanan says you can. Resh Lakish says you must bring many every time you come. We're going to see three challenges to Rabbi Yohanan, and then one final blow to a challenge to Resh Lakish, and that's going to cause us to go to a second interpretation that says no, it means there's no limit to visits, and then we'll see how each understanding fits into that. Okay, Beikar HaRegel, on the main part of the holiday, that means the first day of Jumtov. Everyone agrees that there's a mitzvah to come to the courtyard and you have to bring a korban. So there's no question about that. The first day, you got to come. So during the rest of the Chol HaMoed, assuming you're going to come often, so every time you come and you bring a korban, if you want to, everyone agrees that we accept it, right? We accept as many korbanot as you want. We don't say bal tosif. The only question is, what if you want to come without bringing a korban? So everyone agrees on the first day, when you come, you have to bring a korban. So minimum of one. But on the rest of the days, whenever you come, do you have to or not? Rabbi Yohanan says when this is en lahem shiur, there's no maximum. It's talking about visiting. You can visit anytime you want, and you don't have to bring a korban. If you want to, we'll accept them, but you don't have to feel obligated to bring a korban every time. Resh Lakish and Resh Lakish says that there's no maximum. It means regarding sacrifices, and every time you come, you have to bring a sacrifice. He says it shouldn't be light in your eyes to come to the courtyard and just show up every time. Hey, I'm back here. I'm here again. Right? This is a serious thing. You're going to come again? Great. But bring yet another olah to the iyah. So Resh Lakish is much more machmir. All right. Now that we understand the difference between them in this interpretation one, here's first challenge of Resh Lakish. To Rabbi Yohanan, after all, says that you shall not see my face empty-handed. So doesn't that mean that Lakish says every time you come, don't be empty-handed, and even if you go out and come back, or I was just here yesterday, I come back today, you have to have a korban. Oh, that seems to be a simple interpretation. Rabbi Yohanan answers, no, that pasuk is only talking about on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov is mitzvah to come, and don't be empty-handed. You must bring a korban on Yom Tov. That's just one. On the rest of the holiday, that you can come empty-handed. The pasuk is only talking about for the first day. Okay, remember this answer because he's going to use it twice more. Itibeh, Resh Lakish brings another b'raita. Ve'lo yera'u panai rekam. Bizvachim. When it says don't come empty-handed, it doesn't mean bring chocolates, flowers, anything you want to bring. No, you have to bring an animal sacrifice. There's a specific thing that you must bring when you come for Aliyah LaRegel. So even from the beginning here, we already have a question similar to the question before, but we're going to read the whole b'raita. And so Braita says, are you sure it's animal sacrifices? Maybe you could bring a bird sacrifice or a meal offering. Who says it has to be an animal? Well, v'dinhu nemra Hagigah lehejot nemra re'aya legavoa. Ma Hagigah mora lehejot zevachim, afreya mora legavoa zevachim. We know that there's another commandment to bring shalmeh Hagigah. It's a shelamim, and that is eaten mostly by the owner, and that is an animal sacrifice. And so if the Hagigah, which is given to a hejot, meaning lay people, that's just that we do, we bring it, it's a shelamim, and that has to be an animal. So that which we are bringing in God's honor, all the more so. We're not going to bring something lesser for that. Okay, so it has to be an animal. Umahen zevachim olot. And what does it mean? What kind of zevach, what kind of animal sacrifices? Olah, not a shelamim. And then, as is the usual style of a midrash halacha, we state a thesis, and afterwards we state the thesis, then we question it just so that we can prove it. It's a very good for a technique for persuasion, because you might be thinking, if I just state it, this is how do you know that? I know you're thinking how I know that, so I'm going to tell you. So the Midrash is quoting as if there's an interlocutor there saying, why do you assume that the animal sacrifice that you bring for Re'iyah has to be an olah? Maybe it's a shelamim. And I'll answer you, Vidin, who it's a kal vachomer. Nemra Hagigah lehejot, and nemra Re'iyah legavoa. Ma Hagigah amora lehejot bara'ui lo, af Re'iyah amora legavoa bara'ui lo. We're comparing the Hagigah that I have to bring. It's a shelamim, and I bring it on my own. So if the Hagigah, which is brought by each person, has to be something that is fit for him, meaning fit for him to eat. So it has to be a shelamim so that the pilgrim can eat it. So the re'ayah, which is brought for the honor of Gavoah, for heaven, it should be something that's the most fitting for the consumption of heaven, and that is an olah, which goes all up, and so would not be appropriate. It's not the greatest honor is an olah. The greatest honor would not be a shelamim, even though the greatest honor for a person is a shelamim and not an olah, but they are equivalent. V'chen bedin shelo yeshulchanacha malev shulchan rabbecha rekam, and it's just common sense. It doesn't make sense that your table should be full. You have lots of steaks and ribs and all that because you brought a nice big animal, and the table of heaven, meaning the mizbeach, should be empty. That you're, because if you bring a shalamim, only a little bit goes up on the mizbeach, and most of it goes to you. If you're bringing this to honor Hashem, then most of it should be on the mizbeach, even though Hashem doesn't eat it. We see it over there, and it has an influence on us as the people bringing it. Okay, all that is all the Baraita that asked the question, and so the question is: it looks like from here, every time you come to see and be seen, you have to bring a animal sacrifice with you, right? And Rabbi Yohanan once again will answer. All of this whole Baraita and this pasuk is only talking about the first day of Jumtov. Yes, you have to bring a korban re'iyah, that's an olah and an animal. But on the other days, you don't have to. You can just come say hello. Okay. Third, iti be Rabbi Yosef be Rabbi Yehuda Omer. We're commanded to come 3 times a year, b'chag hamasot, b'chag hashavot, b'chag hasukot. Ve'en nir'in hatzain, mishum shenemar kol zichurecha. And you can't come only half of you, because it says everybody must come. The Gemara in a few minutes is going to explain what this means, half of you. Ve'en nir'in rekanim, and here's the main point for us, and you cannot come empty-handed. Mishum shenemar ve'lo yera'u panai rekam. Okay, same question along the same lines. You cannot come empty-handed. So Resh Lakish is saying, doesn't this mean every time you come, you have to bring an animal sacrifice with you? And Rabbi Yohanan answers the same old thing. It's only talking about the first day. Okay, why is the Gemara going through this whole exercise if we know what the answer is, the same answer as before? I might assume that this discussion was not made between Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yohanan themselves. It could be that maybe they only asked one of them, but then the Gemara after that, because it wants to bring in lots more baraitot. This is a good way. How do you preserve baraitot? Right? They're not collected in the Mishnah. They're not collected anywhere. So how are you going to preserve them? Well, if you put them into a question-answer format, then you'll have to remember them because they're part of the structure. So I think this is actually just an excuse to memorize all of these extra baraitot that in each one is valuable in and of itself because they all have lots of extra information. So even though we know what the answer is going to be, we still like to go through the exercise of the questions and answers. Okay, and that's the typical style of the Talmud Bavli. And okay, itibeh, and fine. Now we go the other way, right? Rabbi Yohanan has been dodging every question, every punch that Resh Lakish brings, right, left, right. Rabbi Yohanan is safe, and now Rabbi Yohanan it's his turn to attack Resh Lakish, and he says, Yir'eh yera'eh. Ma'ani bechinam, afatem bechinam. Remember that the pasuk, right? We read it yera'eh, that we will be seen by Hashem. We have to come to be seen. But that word can also be read, the same letters can be read yir'eh, that we are coming to see Hashem as if. So just like ani bechinam, just like when when we come and see God, God is not bringing anything to the table. He's not bringing a gift. He comes for free. So too, I should be able to come for free, right? When Hashem comes over to see me, as if to say, right, he's not bringing any gift. He's not giving anything to us. And so therefore, it should be reciprocal. And therefore, there should be some time when I'm permitted to come to the courtyard and see Hashem without bringing a gift. Because after all, he's also coming to see me. And I didn't bring a gift, right? If you say yera'eh, to be seen, it means Hashem is seeing me. And therefore, there are times when you can come without a gift. And that's a challenge to Resh Lakish, because Resh Lakish says every time you come, you have to bring an olat re'iyah. Rabbi Yohanan says not true. And that is a blow to Resh Lakish, at least that understanding. So now we're going to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, we misunderstood the whole machloket to begin with. Ela. Kol hecha da'ata ve'la aiti kudekula al mala peligi de'ayil umitchaze ve'nafek ki peligi da'ata ve'aiti. Okay, anytime someone comes to the courtyard and he does not bring, everyone agrees that he can come, and that's okay. And he can come there and exit. So in other words, this interpretation is much more lenient. If you want to come, after the first day, you want to come and just say hello without bringing, it's okay. That what they're arguing is about is if I want to come and I want to bring a further sacrifice. So everyone is going to agree that on the first day, I come and I bring olat re'iyah. On the subsequent days, when I come, I can for sure come and leave without. The question is, am I permitted to bring more than one olat re'iyah? Rabbi Yohanan amar riyat panim ba'azara, riyat panim hu de'en la shiur, hale korban yesh la shiur. When it says en lehem shiur, that's talking about showing up and visiting. So visiting is what has no upper limit, but the sacrifice does have an upper limit. And that the upper limit is one. You have to bring one when you come the first time, and you can only bring one. That's it. Resh Lakish amar riyat panim bekorban de'afilu korban nameh en lo shiur. Whereas Resh Lakish says, listen, if you want to, the first time you come, for sure you have to bring. The next time you come, if you don't want to bring korban, you don't have to. But if you want to, you can. There is no upper limit to the number of sacrifices that you bring. We don't say that this is bal tosif. Okay, that is a difference. This is much more lenient than the other one. Resh Lakish says you can bring if you want. Rabbi Yohanan says you may not bring extras if you, even if you want to. Okay, now a challenge to Resh Lakish. Itibeh hokad raglecha mi bet ra'echa. Very interesting. Pasuk Mishleh says, "Let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house, because otherwise he's going to get sick of you." Right? Even if you have a good friend, you come over once in a while. You come over every day. I'm here. It's like Kramer on Seinfeld. He keeps coming. He's not wanted. So too, all the more so. The Havdil in the Bet HaMikdash. It should be something that's rare that one comes to the Bet HaMikdash. You're going to come every day. It's not proper, and therefore that's a challenge. You shouldn't bring a present every single day to your friend's house. You shouldn't bring a present every single day to the Bet HaMikdash. It's too familiar, and don't do it. So what do we do with that pasuk, Resh Lakish? Because this says don't come all the time, meaning with a present, and you're saying you're allowed. Rabbi Yochanan, I'm saying I limit it. One gift per holiday. That's all. So he'll answer, Hatam bechataot v'ashamot. Resh Lakish could answer that this pasuk is talking about chatat and asham, sin offering, guilt offering. That is what I shouldn't be bringing too many of. Let's say, by mistake, I made a sin. I plucked an apple on Shabbat. I'm going to bring a chatat. I shouldn't say, I feel so bad. I want to bring 3 chatat. I want to bring 10 chataot. No, you said you're sorry. That's it, right? People that keep saying they're sorry, they say, stop saying sorry. It's okay. Sorry for saying sorry. No, it's too much. Okay, that's what it's talking about, that you should let your foot be seldom. But other types of sacrifices, like an olat re'iyah, yes, you're allowed to bring many. Okay, and this statement that we just saw, we're going to have 2 statements that back it up, both Rabbi Levi and a baraita. Rabbi Levi rameh. We have 2 opposing pesukim. One says, let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house. And neighbor here we're taking as a mashal to the Bet HaMikdash. Don't come often. And another pasuk says, I will come often to your home with a with an olah. Which one is it? Lakashya. When it says don't come often, that's with sin offering. We don't want you to go sin so that you can have to bring more sin offerings. That's it. Try not to sin. If you do, just one. And when it says I want to come often with an olah, that's talking about other types of olot and shelamim. Tanyana mehachi, and the Braita also backs up this distinction. So don't come often. That's talking about sin offerings. And now we get to the format of Midrash Halacha. We said a thesis, and now we question it. Is that true? Maybe it's also olot and shelamim. One should not bring too many. There's another pasuk that says, I will come with olot, and I want to pay my vows. If I vow that I'm going to bring something, so you see that's good. That's positive to bring many of those. So therefore, that pasuk that says don't come often is only talking about sin offerings. Okay, good. So that resolves all the problems, and then now we understand when it says "en lahem shiur" that there's no limit. It's talking about there's no limit to visits. Everyone agrees you can visit as often as you want. But Rabbi Yohanan would say there is a limit to sacrifices, only one. Whereas Resh Lakish says if you want to bring more olot today, go for it. You can bring it. Okay, now that we back to that baraita that said en nir'in hatzain. When you come, it says kol zechurecha. All of your males have to come, and not just half. What did that apply to? So we're getting back to that. Savad Rav Yosef le'mamar. Man de'it le'asara banim la lisku haydana v'chamisha u'machar chamisha. This means if someone has 10 sons, he shouldn't say, it's too much to bring everybody at once. I'll bring 5 of my sons today, and then I'll bring 5 to the Bet HaMikdash tomorrow. No, you shouldn't do that because the primary mitzvah is on the first day. And so you're going to tell half to stay home, and the other half are going to go, and then the 5 are going to miss out. No, everybody should come all together on the first day. That's the best thing to do. So that's what it means. Abaye says, no, that can't be what the pasuk means when it says kol zechurecha, because that's obvious that you all have to come together. How are you going to decide which 5 you should stay? You stay home and make them as sinners, like they're too lazy. And how are you going to decide which ones are zidizin? And they say, oh yeah, we're going to come. How are you going to decide which 5 to leave home, which 5 to bring? Obviously, once you're coming, and you should come, you should bring everybody, all the males. And so that is obvious. So that's not what the pasuk means. Rather, the word kol is coming to include something that a law that we already said. It was quoted in the name of acherim, and that baraita that says people who smell very badly because when someone's a scrimper, he gathers dog feces for tanners, or someone who melts copper, or a tanner of hides because they smell badly. If they show up and to come on the caravan, everyone else runs away because they don't want to be near them, right? Like the guy that walks into the smelly person that walks into the subway and everybody else leaves. No, you can only come if by you coming, you also allow everyone else to come. So only if he can come with all the males, but this excludes someone who will exclude other people, right? Why is it being repeated from before? Because we're using this statement to explain the statement in this other braita that says, don't come half of you, right? So we don't know what this means. What do you mean, don't come half of you? So now we quoted it before, but we're quoting it again to explain this half. Half means don't come in such a way that you are going to have the rest of the people that are coming because they won't be able to stand you, withstand you coming. Okay, and that's all for that Mishnah. And then we get to the next topic, which is when you have Maaser Sheni, which is done 4 out of 7 years of Shemitah, 1, 2, 4, and 5, you have to take 1/10 of your produce and bring it to Jerusalem and consume it. You can consume it yourself, but a tenth is a lot. So for sure, you're going to share it with Leviim and poor people and family and friends. So Maaser Sheni is a beautiful way of celebrating in Yerushalayim, because you have to use the money in Yerushalayim. Now, if you live too far away to carry a tenth of your produce, then you can sell it in your hometown, take the money, and bring the money to Jerusalem. But that is restricted money. You must use it to buy food and that you can consume. You can't just go and buy a car or an apartment. So you have to buy money. You have to use it for food. Also, you can use it for an animal sacrifice that you don't have to bring. But if it's an animal sacrifice that you're required to bring, then you have to use chulin money, right? Like in Olat Re'iyah, you have to bring in Olat Re'iyah. So you have to use your own money, chulin money, for that. You can use Maaser Sheni money only if it's like a shalmeh simcha. I want to bring extra, I want to have extra meat. So then you're eating it, and that's fine. So you see, Maaser Sheni money can only be used for a shelamim. That's optional and cannot be used for any type of olah, because you're not eating it. And it cannot be used for anything that you would have to bring anyway, from because that you have to use chulin money. Okay, those are the principles, and with that we should be able to understand this Mishnah. Olah olot bamoed baot min hachulin. If you're bringing a korban olah during moed, meaning here during chol hamoed, because we don't bring olot on the Yom Tov, because on Yom Tov you're not allowed to cook unless you're eating it. So you can't. You can only bring a shelamim. So olot, we're going to discuss that point a lot. Olot that you bring on Chol HaMoed, you have to bring from chulin, from non-sacred money, because it's all being burnt and you're not eating it. Maaser Sheni money has to be eaten. But if it's shelamim min hamaaser, if you bring a shelamim offering, since you're eating most of it, you can use maaser money to buy the shelamim offering. Okay, so this makes sense according to the principles that we just said. Now, Yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach. Okay, the first clause is about Chol HaMoed. This clause is about Yom Tov. It says the first day of Pesach. Actually, it applies to any day of Yom Tov. Just happens to be talking about Pesach. Bet Shammai omerim min hachulin, ubet Hillel omerim min hamaaser. That if you want to bring a shilamim offering on Yom Tov, Bet Shammai says you can bring it from. It has to be from chulin, whereas Bet Hillel says you can bring it from maaser money. Even that's because Bet Hillel is a lot more lenient regarding bringing shilamim offerings during the holiday. And you can see that in this chart. So this is just another principle here. What types of animals may you bring on Yom Tov? Here there's 4 categories. If it's an obligatory and it has to be that day, like a korban tamid or korban musaf, even though you're not eating it, everyone agrees. Torah says you have to bring that. Even Bet Shammai would agree that you have to bring those sacrifices. If it's an obligatory shelamim offering, also, everyone agrees it's shelamim, so you're eating it. So Bet Shammai says, okay, you're eating it, so it's okay to cook it on Yom Tov, and it's obligatory, so that's fine. And now olot that ideally you should bring on Yom Tov, but you could delay it if you needed to. That is permitted according to Bet Hillel, even on Yom Tov, even though you're not eating it, but prohibited according to Bet Hillel because it's an olah and you're not cooking it without eating it. If it's a sacrifice that can be brought any day of any time, then that's prohibited on Yom Tov according to anybody, because why bring it today? If I just made a neder, right? I'm going to bring a sacrifice. Don't bring it on Yom Tov. Bring it on another day. Okay, so that's another principle that will serve us well. All right, second part of the Mishnah. Yisrael, this is easier part. Yisrael yotzin yedei chovatan benedarim undavot maaser behema bekohanim bechataot ubashamot ubabechor bechazeh vashok avalo beofot ubamenachot. Okay, everybody has an obligation to rejoice on the holiday, and that means eating meat. So where are you going to get your meat from on the holiday? So if Israel can bring optional sacrifices that they vow. They either vow on themselves, or they vow, I'm going to bring this animal, and they bring it as a shilamim and they eat it, or a tenth of the behema that they bring and they eat and that they eat. And kohanim, they eat part of any chatat and asham that the people bring, and also a bechor. They receive a portion of it, and chazeh and shok. which is even of shilamim, they receive those parts of it. So there's plenty of meat for everyone. And here's why we brought all this, but you cannot fulfill the happiness of the holiday with birds and meal offerings, right? Even if you like, as much as you like a pigeon and turtle dove, and as much as you like pancakes, you can eat them, but that's not the fulfillment of simcha of Yom Tov, which is only with animal meat. Sorry to the vegetarians. All right, now the Gemara says, Ela olot b'moed hu debaot min hachulin ha b'yom tov min hamaaser amai davar shebechovahi b'chol davar shebechova eno ba ela min hachulin. Okay, so we're asking on these words here that says olot b'moed baot min hachulin. On chol hamoed, the olot come from chulin. So what does that word moed come to teach me? Is that coming to imply that if it were Yom Tov, then I could use maaser money for an olah? But that doesn't make sense. I mean, because it's an olah. I can't use maaser money for an olah that I'm not eating, right? So ela olot, only on moed, I brings it from chulin, but on Yom Tov, I would bring it from maaser. It doesn't make sense. Why? It's something that is obligatory. And anything that's obligatory, has to be from chulin money. Also, it's all being burnt, so it has to be from chulin money. So that can't be the implication of the word b'moed. V'chitema hakamashmalan de'olot b'moed ba'ot b'yom tov enan ba'ot. Oh, so maybe it's teaching me that the olot that I bring, which I can bring on chol hamoed, when I bring them, has to be chulin. But on Yom Tov, I wouldn't bring any olot at all. And that would fit with the words. The problem with that is that would only follow Bet Shammai, as we see in the Mishnah in Masechet Betzah Titnan. Bet Shammai omrim mevi'in shelamim ve'en somchim alehem avalo olot. Bet Shammai says on Yom Tov you can bring shelamim offerings because you're going to eat it, but you can't do semicha because you can't work the animal and you're putting your weight on it. And you cannot bring any olot on Yom Tov. I mean, except for like Korban Tamid, that has to be on that day. So that would fit with the implication we just said with the words of the Mishnah, right? That you can bring olot on Chol HaMoed, and when you bring them from Chulin, but on Yom Tov, you don't bring them at all. So yeah, the wording of the Mishnah would fit Bet Shammai, but we don't want the Mishnah to be Bet Shammai. So this is a problem. And Bet Hillel disagrees with that. Bet Hillel says you can bring both shelamim and olot as long as they're obligatory, and it's preferable that they be on the day of Yom Tov. And you can do semicha also because semicha is an essential part of the avodah, and you're allowed to do melacha in the Bet HaMikdash if it's necessary for the avodah. And so therefore, this solution, although it fits with the words of the Mishnah, is Bet Shammai, and we can't let that be. And therefore we say chasura mechasera v'hachiketani. So we're going to say, you know what? We are missing words from the Mishnah. Either we're physically missing words or we are adding explanatory words to the Mishnah to fill in what otherwise you might not understand. What I did here is the green are the words of the Mishnah. What's not green are the words they're filling in. So you see they're filling in like about 50% of the words, of the total words here. So they're filling in a lot. And so what they're filling in doesn't sound like it would be the Pashat of the Mishnah. It seems like the Pashat of the Mishnah is Bet Shammai, but because we don't want that to be, so we are interpreting the Mishnah, although in a somewhat forced way for the words, so that it can be Bet Hillel. All right, and so now let's see what it says. After we bring this, we're going to bring a Braita that's the exact same words, so we get a freebie here. Olot nedarim unedavot. If you have olot that are optional, that I decided to donate, b'moed ba'ot, during Chol HaMoed, I can bring them on Chol HaMoed because you're allowed to do melacha on Chol HaMoed for any type of sacrifice. But Yom Tov and An Ba'ot, but on Yom Tov you can't bring them because they're optional, and everybody agrees to that. Olat Re'iyah ba'a afilu b'Yom Tov. Olat Re'iyah, however, that you can bring even on Yom Tov. Although Olat Re'iyah, if you didn't bring it on the first day, you didn't get a chance. You can bring it on the second day, the Shelamim. It's tashlumin, but nevertheless, this is all Bet Hillel says you can bring it on the first because the mitzvah is on the first. When you bring olah to the iyah, you have to use your own chulin money, not maaser money, because it's obligatory, and also you're not eating it. So it has to be from chulin money. Now, v'shameh simcha ba'in af mina maaser. Shameh simcha are extra animals. Let's say I have a lot of people with me. I want to have a lot of meat, and so I bring shilamim that we eat to enhance the simcha. And since it's optional and I am eating it, I can use Maaser Sheni money to buy them. Chagigat Jumtov Harishon Shel Pesach. Now the Hagigah, that is a shilamim, but it's obligatory. So it's a little bit in between. So Bet Shammai Omrim min hachulin. I have to use my own chulin money because it's obligatory. I can't use Maaser Sheni money to buy something that I would have had to buy anyway. Bet Hillel omrim min hamaaser, and Bet Hillel says I can use Maaser Sheni money because I'm eating it together, even though it's obligatory. I'm eating it as a shilamim, and therefore I can use the Maaser Sheni money, and that explains. So the last half of the Mishnah is pretty much intact. But the first half, to make that understood, we had to add a lot of words. Now, where do we get all these extra words from? We got it from a Braita that says it's exactly the same word for word. And so we're really just taking the Mishnah and reconciling it with the Braita by adding all these words as explanation of the Mishnah. Tanan mehachi olot nedrim udavot b'moed baot b'yom tov enan baot ve'olat re'iya ba'a afilu b'yom tov v'chshi ba'ena ba'ela min ha'chulin v'shamesh simcha ba'in af min ha'maser v'chagigat yom tov harishon shel Pesach bet Shammai omrim min ha'chulin u'bet Hillel omrim min ha'maser. And so now we understand the Mishnah. Okay, last point. Mai shena chagigat yom tov harishon shel Pesach. What's the difference between, why does it say specifically Hagigah of the first day of Pesach? As opposed to what? Hagigat chamisha asar in, Hagigat arba asar la. So on Pesach, this is why I chose Pesach, because actually two Hagigot on Pesach. One on the 14th and another one on the 15th. The one on the 15th is the same as what you'd bring on Shavuot or the first day of Sukkot. You bring Korban Hagigah, and it's best for it to be that day. It's a Shilamim, and that's obligatory. On the 14th is when we bring Korban Pesach. If you have a small Korban Pesach and you have a lot of people, everybody needs to get a kizait of a Korban Pesach, but they also want to eat more. So you can and should then bring other Hagigah of the 14th. But the Hagigah of the 14th is, you don't have to bring it if you don't have a lot of people. So that Hagigah is different. So we see here that you only are allowed to spend that, only allowed to bring the Korban Hagigah of the 15th in those circumstances, because that is doraita and you have to bring it. But the 14th, we would not apply these laws because that is not a Torah obligation, and therefore you can use Maaser Sheni money for the Hagigah of the 14th, which is optional doraita, but you cannot use that money for Hagigah on the 15th because that is obligatory. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.